Do you know the show was nominated for exactly one Primetime Emmy?
No.
If you have to guess, what do you think the Primetime Emmy would be for? Just take a shot.
Costume.
It's a good guess. It's wrong.
Okay.
Outstanding sound editing for a limited series.
Okay.
For episode 7, The Two Faces Part 2. So when you're watching that episode, pay close attention to the Foley work, because apparently it's Emmy worthy, but nothing else in the show is. So.
All right.
Sorry, I'm a little bit bitter. Hello and welcome to Flanagan's Wake, a Doof Media podcast that reveals that Mike Flanagan has been dead the whole time. My name is Scott Daly, and joining me, as always, currently possessed by an attractive Scottish man, it's Matt Freeman. How's it going today, Matt?
Oh, I'm just doing grand.
It was good. It was good. I liked it. Although, as we know, when he's possessing, the accent doesn't happen. So
that's right. It's just a totally normal. I'm fine. Nothing wrong with me.
This week on the show, we continue our exploration of Mike Flanagan's The Haunting of Bly Manor. This week on the show, episode 5, The Altar of the Dead. And Matt, this is the big one. I think we have about 47 different things that I've been trying my best to not accidentally slip up and tell you over the course of the last month, and a bunch of them are revealed in this episode. This is our big, I think the comparison point in The Haunting of Hill House is this was the Bent Neck Lady episode, right? This was the big Bent Neck Lady reveal episode, was episode 5 of Hill House, and here we are with Bly Manor. Gosh, tons happened. What did you think? This is a big one. What did you think?
Well, this is very painful for me as the person whose job it is to be the novice and has the chance of guessing and figure things out in advance. And then an episode like this happens and I'm like, no, because there's all this stuff happened that I'm like, I should have figured this out.
You were so close on the Miles stuff. So close. The number of times you were like, yeah, well, in the novel, there's all this stuff about whether Miles is being possessed by Peter or not. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That does happen in the novel.
Yeah.
You were so close.
Yeah, right. I think I probably don't deserve any partial credit at all. I think we talked a bit about the idea that Miles acts up sometimes, but I don't think I ever went so far as to say that he was being possessed. I might have had an inkling that he was being influenced in a vague way, and I don't even know if I said that, but
I can't remember which episode I said it in, but there was definitely an episode where I said to you, and I was this is as far as I reached, as much risk as I was willing to take, but I said it's almost as if sometimes he behaves like he's two different people. And I mean, that's a great way of describing a character that feels very hot and cold. That is because I mean, you were picking up on all these things where sometimes he's this sweet little innocent boy and you just have so much sympathy for him, and then sometimes he's this very brusque, angry, rebellious kid, and it feels like he switches between these two things very, very quickly. And, I mean, you were right there. It's just you didn't. All you needed to do was finish the sentence with, "Well, that's because Peter is in his brain."
Right. Yeah. There's so many things. I mean, I think you and I were talking about this earlier, and you were like, "This is just really a show that rewards a rewatch," because I can just sit here and I can almost go through the whole show in my head to the extent that I am capable of that, and just be like, "Okay, the scene where Miles brings her the hair brooch." And there's a little peeping Tom there for a second.
Yep.
Probably Quint.
I actually tried to do a lot of work in this as I was rewatching it of identifying all the moments that this is definitely Peter and definitely not. There are obviously like the obvious ones are very obvious, right? I think the brushing the hair around her ear, as you said, the one where he like peeping toms, the one where he demands wine at dinner. Those are the obvious moments. I was trying to look at the ones that maybe were a little bit more subtle. Like there's something that I was picking up on early in the show where he was using Danny to talk to Danny Clayton, and sometimes he was using Miss Clayton, and I was convinced that this was a tell that the show was using to say like when he says Danny, it's when he's being less informal and not following directions, that's when it's Peter. When he's being proper and says Miss Clayton, that's when it's Miles. But I wasn't able to find that consistently. Sometimes where I definitely know that's Peter in there, he says Miss Clayton, and sometimes where I'm like 90% sure it's Miles, he says Danny. So that's not, there is the one big thing that I noticed is Peter and Miles has his hands in his pockets a lot. He puts his hands in his pockets and he's walking around with his hands in his pockets a lot.
Yeah.
So that's one tell that I think definitely there.
Yeah. That's something that Peter also does. Like we see him when he's wearing his, he's always trying to look like he's casual and cool. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
He kind of, I think he has this kind of, it's funny because they have different faces, but he's got kind of this grin, this like sardonic grin that he makes that the boy also makes approximately a similar expression. But generally, he's also doing weird, shady shit in those scenes too. So that's really more of the tell.
Gosh, Matt, we got a little ahead of ourselves here because I had a whole plan for this episode.
Okay.
I was going to go through the three big reveals of the episode and then ask you which one you wanted to talk about first. I guess you've chosen the Peter is possessing Miles one inadvertently, and that's my fault. Let's give some background information on the episode first, and then we'll circle back around to Miles. I want to make sure we hit this just to give credit where credit is due, because this episode, The Altar of the Dead, was written by Angela Lamanna with once again Laura Penny and Rebecca Klingel as story editors. It is directed once again by Liam Gavin, who directed last week's episode. It is edited once again by Ken Blackwell, who edited last week's episode, and Maxime Alexandra, who is, I believe, the DP for all 9 of these episodes, is once again the cinematographer here. So those are our people in charge of this episode. And all right, so our 3 big reveals, Matt, we talked about the one already. The one big one is that Peter has been possessing Miles at different points throughout the show. That explains a lot, but not all of Miles' behavior. Our other big reveal is, of course, how Peter died. This is another mystery we didn't know. We knew he was dead. We didn't know how he died. And in this episode, we learn it was at the hands of the lady in the lake. We talked last week about how the children seem afraid of her and seem to want to keep the adults away from her, but we didn't really understand why. Now we know. It's very simple. It's very simple. If you are in her path when she takes her walk, she's going to choke slam you and murder you, and then drag you into the lake.
Crush your throat and drag your corpse in the lake. Yep.
Yeah.
That was terrifying, by the way.
Yeah.
I feel way more scared for Danny and all the other characters in the house now that I know that she's actually lethal and not just like, that they're not just trying to keep Danny's attention so that Danny won't know about the ghosts. They're trying to keep Danny alive.
Yep. And then our third and I think biggest reveal, the one that really drives both the form, function, and plot of this episode, is the reveal that Hannah Gross, the caretaker of Bly Manor, has been dead the whole time.
Wait, what?
Oh no! Did you not understand? Did you see when she fell down the well?
I think. So okay, I was joking just then, but like I did kind of have to like. I was a little dense. I didn't just like see her fall down the well and then immediately in my head go, "Oh, she's been dead the whole time." It was kind of a like waves of realization, and then also some waves of like, but wait a minute. So the wait a minute was just like, wait, can everyone else see her, or have all of the scenes involving Hannah Gross been just her in a room talking to no one, and I have somehow missed that? And the answer is no. because then you would really feel crazy if that were the case. The answer is
Sure.
that all the other characters do see her as a person who's there, but they don't realize she's dead. And
neither does she.
Neither does she. And there was the one thing that similarly to the Miles thing, I guess, I like caught, the weird situation where it's like, where does she live?
Yeah.
Because she doesn't have a room, but she just always seems to be there. Where did she come from? When Danny went to get her, when she thought Quint was in the house, she was just there already, because she's always there because she's a ghost.
Yeah, the tells of the Hannah stuff is really interesting, because you picked up on that again. Like, we never see her room, we never see her wake up or go to bed. I'm pretty sure, I'm not 100% positive on this, but I'm pretty sure we never see her like enter or leave a room in the show. She's just like, if she's in a scene, she's in the scene. She's just there. And I think that works pretty well, especially considering that like the moments of her entering and leaving rooms are the trigger points for the majority of the episodes of her jumping around in her memory and her non-linear experience. I don't like, this is one that like, I think the Miles stuff is stuff that you could possibly guess, especially having read The Turn of the Screw. I don't think this is a thing that any person could realistically guess. I think the best you could possibly do is maybe like at some point during the story of this episode, you're like, oh, I think I see what we're doing here. But that's like the best you could hope for. I think this is a thing that I don't know. Maybe some of our listeners will say, no, I knew this the whole time. Hannah's clearly dead. But this was a major like this twist worked on me very well. It was definitely an oh shit moment. And to put it, the thing I love of it is like, it's the moment Danny and you meet her. It's the first moment you meet her. She is standing over the well, looking inquisitively down the well, and is a little scatterbrained. And Miles is standing right next to her, right behind her. And he literally just pushed her down the well and killed her.
Mm-hmm.
And then Danny walks into the scene and we meet her for the first time. Like, this all just happened.
Yeah. Except, so my interpretation is that Miles doesn't even realize what happened.
That's correct. What we've seen from the possession is when he departs Miles is not aware of what's happened while he was possessed.
Yeah.
On the surface level, I think this is when I will remind you and our audience, there was a bit moment where I can't remember exactly when it is, which episode it is, but Miles is talking to Hannah and he says something like, I had a horrible dream that I hurt you. And that's Miles maybe on some level deep in his subconscious is remembering what he did. And that could also explain, like I said, the Peter possessing Miles stuff does explain a fair amount of Miles' more antagonistic behavior. It does not fully explain, like, that's not the full explanation of Miles as a character in general. There's a lot more going on there. And I think part of it is he is aware on some level that he is being possessed and is perhaps doing bad things, but has no clear memory of those things.
Yeah. Oh, and I think we talked a lot back then about him trying to figure out the rules of possession according to the Bible.
Yeah.
And at the time, my interpretation was he's really just trying to get a grasp on like what spirits can and can't do.
Yeah.
And he was asking about permission, but I was being not literal enough, because he was literally asking like, what are the rules of literally possessing someone's body? And in this particular case, dragging them into the lake. So he was just very specifically asking about that situation, and I thought he was being more general.
Yeah, but that does raise the question, though, that the big thing for Miles in that scene was permission, right? The thing that he caught on the Jesus exercises Legion into the pigs was that Legion needed permission to enter the pigs, and he asked the question: is the same for humans though? Then does this stuff need permission to enter people? And the priest, our good priest, said yes, that is true. That he used as a lesson of choice and free will. our interpretation of what happens in this episode, though, as we see it, it doesn't seem like Miles like lets Peter in, or maybe consciously lets Peter in, right? So part of this is you say maybe the priest was wrong, and this is not how possession works in this world. This is the priest's understanding of possession, but this is not really it. Or maybe he was not wrong, and maybe Miles did do something subconsciously or consciously that opened a door for Peter in his brain. Or maybe the priest is 100% right and he didn't, or 100% wrong, and he did not need permission, but Miles believes that you have to provide permission, and therefore the fact that Peter is able to possess him fills Miles with some sort of guilt or personal blame of, I must have done something that allows this person to do this thing, and so therefore I am responsible on some level for the things he does in my body. And I'm carrying some guilt and stuff around that. That's a question we don't have an answer to yet, but that's definitely potentially there as well, right?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I was wondering about this lighter that he has, where Peter gave him the lighter and said, like, this is from my dad. I don't remember exactly what he said. It was something like, this is the only good thing about him, or something.
Yeah.
And obviously Miles still has the lighter, and in this episode, we see him playing with the lighter, but when he's playing with the lighter, I think we assume that it's actually Peter playing with the lighter, because he's using it to light a cigarette and smoking. So, like, I don't know. I just mentioned the lighter because it's directly associated with death. So it's like maybe this is somehow a haunted object. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. No, that could be. We don't know. Gosh, there's so much here, Matt. There's so much. I think maybe, sorry, go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, I mean, I want to definitely talk about all the Hannah stuff. I want to talk about the structure of the episode and the jumping back and forth in time.
Hey, that's where I was going. So perfect.
Yeah. And like, I want to talk about, like, not just like, I want to talk about it mechanically and like narratively, but also like, what are we saying with it? And, you know, what effect is it going for, and all these things. These are all really interesting areas. I love the interview with Owen.
Yes.
That we returned to several times. To me, I believe that's the scene we return to the most number of times.
Mm-hmm.
And it also serves kind of as a touch point for the episode, as a kind of narrative spine.
Yeah.
Where, you know, basically the first time we see it is presumably just what actually happened in that scene in real life in the past. And then subsequent times it's a little bit more fourth wall breaking. My take is like his performance is slightly more like relaxed and maybe like sardonic the second time. And then by the third time, it's almost like a totally different, because he's just, it's like he's aware that we're just like playing out this scene.
I love when he takes off his glasses in frustration, is just like, oh, yes, we are doing this again. Yes.
Yeah. Which it's like, so, which is a really cool idea. I'm not sure, like, because we're like halfway through the show basically. So I'm like, what, you know, is that basically Hannah in her own mind trying to come to grips with, trying to realize the fact of her own death through this wending through her memories, and or like, or is this actually time travel? I mean, our listeners from Haunting of Hill House, I don't want to have like the same conversation we had during that show, and I also don't want to like spoil that show really for the people who maybe haven't seen that show, but just the idea of introducing the idea of like doing timey-wimey shenanigans, not because you want to invoke literal time travel, but because you want to invoke the concept of fate and fatalism and being doomed and condemned to a certain path, and maybe that not even necessarily being altogether bad. These are all ideas that I think are big in the Flaniverse, and in particularly in the haunted house Flaniverse. I'll let you go from there because I don't really know how much we want to really talk about Haunting of Hill House. But
I mean,
what do
I
you
think we can say that like the thing that is established by the Haunting series, or at least that was established by the Haunting of Hill House, that I think this episode makes clear is just a truism of the world of the Haunting series in general, is that when you are a ghost in this world, you do not experience time linearly. This goes back to, we don't have to talk about details, but the character in the Haunting of Hill House saying there is no there is no end, there's no beginning, there's no, the time is not in a line of cause and effect. It sprinkles around us like confetti, right? That is the conversation in the show, that especially like when you are dead and when you have died and you are a ghost in this world, you experience time through memories and dreams, and you're just kind of hopping around to different moments and different experiences throughout your life through your memories. And that is essentially what I think Mrs. Gross is doing here. That she is just, and I think the show supports this when she eventually stumbles into Rebecca Jessel, who is also a dead ghost that lives in this place, who is doing kind of a constant bounce around between her experiences, and she is reliving the last moment she saw Peter Quint alive, and says, I haven't been in this one for a while. I like this one. And then is like, well, but you've never been here before. What are you doing here? And so like Rebecca Jessel has just been bouncing around, and maybe it's kind of like you bounce into like the present as a ghost when you're hanging out with the kids, and then like walk through a door and then you're in a past memory, or like because I mean, we do see that Hannah's in the show, right? She's a ghost, but she's in the show. So she's not just constantly living in her memory. She's also living in the experience of the quote unquote present, and interacting with people. So like, I think they're just bouncing around. They're untethered to time. Time is not a line for them. It is these memories. The show opens on Owen, like kind of saying, you know, the thing I've learned with my mother is you can't count on the past, you can't count on memories, but you also can't count on tomorrow because you could die at any day. And what he says is, you have no past, you have no future. And that is essentially, he's talking about himself and his the general idea of his life, but that is essentially Hannah's experience at this point. Like, what is the past? I mean, there is essentially no future for Hannah. She's dead. She has no future. The past is just the series of memories she's playing through again, and she's stuck. The motif of this glue trap comes up a lot in this episode, and well, plenty to say about all the variations of that, but she's now stuck. She's stuck in this kind of cycle, and she's also done this thing that I don't think maybe all the ghosts do, maybe not all the ghosts do. I think we see that Peter does it briefly, but then quickly realizes that yes, he is dead, and he accepts that. Hannah has not done that. And the narrator's opening lines are just like, her daily routine is how she found peace. This, like, anytime anything bad happened to Hannah in her life, she just jumped into her daily routine, and that's how she found peace and calm. And so essentially what happened is Hannah Gross dies, and instead of dealing with that fact, she just jumps into her routine, and she's just a ghost that is still cleaning and cooking and doing all these things and living her life as if it normally was. And I think the reality of her situation over the course of the show, and especially this episode, is pushing against that. And as you said, the interview scene with Owen, the first moment she met Owen, a person who becomes very important to her, a person who is obviously she has some very romantic feelings towards, like, that is the spine of her subconscious's like battle to admit to herself of what happened.
Yeah. It's like the inciting incident, if you will, for the episode is the fact that he asks her to leave with him.
Right. Yep.
And the horrible tragedy of the episode really is that she realizes that she does want to leave with him. Yeah. And it's the realization that she wants to leave with him that makes her actually, for the first time, have to face the fact that she actually can't.
Yeah.
Because
she's been in a glue trap she wasn't even aware of.
Exactly. She's never wanted to leave. She's never wanted to do anything different. Like she's never wanted to do anything other than what a repetitive ghost version of herself would want to do, just the routine, like you said.
Yeah.
That's kind of the cool like metaphor level that I really appreciate this episode on, where like there's all these ghosts in the house, but most of them, they're either just kind of hanging in the background, or they are being malicious, as the case may be, but they're not just acting like people. And it's like, well, what's so special about her that makes her just literally act like a normal person, that other people just think they just think she is a normal person?
Yeah.
And it's because it's like, well, she was stuck before she died. I mean, in an interesting way, I think I was like, do I want to is this overstating it? But it's like she was dead before she died because she was in a stasis. She was in a routine. It's the death of a salesman thing from high school English, that stagnation is death, and her life was a life of stagnation and repetition because she was sort of hiding away from this thing that had happened to her, and hiding in that routine, hiding in that stagnation.
Yeah.
And so dying was indistinguishable because she was already dead.
Yeah, I mean, the literal glue trap is the fact that now that she's a ghost, the ghosts cannot leave Bly Manor, right? That's the thing that we're kind of explicitly told. Like that's the thing that Peter Quint is struggling at, is like, I would love to be arrested right now just so I can leave this fucking place, but I can't. I cannot leave. And it's the same thing with Hannah. She is a ghost here now. She is stuck here. She is trapped here. This is the glue trap. This is I forget what Owen calls Bly in the opening episode, but it's basically a black hole. And it traps you there, and of course this is literalized in the ghost. This is literal in the ghosts. But to your point, she was in the glue trap before she died, and that's the thing that I find so interesting and fascinating about this episode, is we get to see kind of Hannah's past. And we get to see Hannah as this woman, as you said, she's very dedicated to her work. One of the things that Owen says about her in the opening minutes of the episode is you spend all of your time caring about other people. That's what you do. And no time caring about yourself, essentially. An interesting motif is forming in this episode about the whole put your oxygen mask on first, then help other people thing. This is a thing that has been echoed by multiple characters over the course of the show so far. And that's not the way Owen says it to her, but that's essentially what he's arguing, is like, you value everyone else over yourself, ultimately to your own detriment. And we see Hannah Gross in this episode, a person incredibly committed to this family and this job, to the point where a terrible thing happens. Her husband, Mr. Gross, we finally learn what happened to Mr. Gross, not dead. We kind of assume maybe he was dead. That fourth candle, not for him, Matt. It was for her. She was lighting a candle for herself.
Yeah. Right. I was going to say that a second ago because I did figure that out. But yeah.
So yeah, he just ran off with some other woman and left her. And Charlotte Wingrave, who we've heard talked about many times through this episode, but we hadn't actually gotten to meet yet. We do get to meet Charlotte and Dominic Wingrave. Charlotte Wingrave, by the way, is played by Alexandra Esso, and if that name sounds familiar to you, that's because she played Wendy Torrance in Dr. Sleep. She did an excellent Wendy Torrance impression in that movie. Yeah. She's here being Charlotte Wingrave, and I really like this because one of the things that Peter Quint is arguing to her, because the two of them have a lot of conversations throughout this episode too, and one of the things that Peter is arguing to her is that you're just the help. That's all they see you as. Like, as soon as you're used up, they'll throw you out. Like, there's always going to be this barrier. There's always going to be us and them. And what we see with Charlotte Wingrave is a woman who, I think, maybe you disagree, but I think does care a great deal about this woman. She cares about Hannah. She finds that she feels like she's friendly with Hannah. I think if you asked her, she would say Hannah is part of the family. But there is still kind of a thing there, right? Like, one of the things that I find so interesting about the scene in the church, which that scene in the church has a lot going on, because it's Hannah talking to Alexandra, or to Charlotte Wingrave, about her man, and then Hannah talking to Becca about her man, and they're both like Hannah Gross changes roles essentially between those two conversations, but Charlotte basically says, you should just forget him, and what you need to do is just come and live with us, right? Sell your house, it'll give you a bunch of extra cash, and come and live with us. And while, I think that's, from Charlotte's perspective, a kindness, because it's like, I see this woman struggling, I see this woman's lonely, we love her, and she's part of our lives, and so why don't we just make that official? The problem with that, Matt, is now what that does when Hannah ultimately agrees to it is her life, her work, it's all the same. Like she lives where she works. She works where she lives. Her whole life is dedicated to this place and this family and these people. She has nothing else for herself. It's the maximization of what Owen says of her is like, you take care of all these other people. And so she lives here, she works here, she dies here. It's all of it. And that is, I think, one of the arguments of the show is yeah, perhaps that is not living. That is what Owen says to her. Like, what do I do? She says, what am I going to do in Paris? And he says, live, Hannah, you're going to live. And of course, that's an incredibly ironic statement, but
yeah.
I find that so fascinating because I'm not saying like Peter Quint is right. I think Peter Quint's like has a very damaged view of the world, and it's like, it's always us and them. And there's no, like, we have to treat them as they treat us. They treat us like scum. So why should we feel bad about ripping them off and hurting them and yada, yada, yada. I think he's wrong there, but I think he hits a chord with her about certain ways that she feels about this whole relationship and the idea that she doesn't even realize how fully trapped she is. Sorry, I've been talking for a long time there. So you go.
No, there's definitely a lot of like class subtext in this show where, not just subtext, but text, but definitely, yeah. The Peter and Rebecca have similar conversations, and then I like my read into Gross's behavior. The performance there is like, she doesn't like that she agrees with him. She's angry. She's angry that he has a good point,
Mm-hmm.
Or that she has at least felt similar things, right? Because I think she does feel trapped. There's an interesting, I don't know if the show is necessarily going this far with this idea or not, but like, there's an interesting way in which all sort of attempts to care for someone can become smothering, right?
Yeah.
So the nanny relationship in the book, for example, literally fatally smothering. And it's a woman who is very seriously taking this idea that it's her almost like holy order is to take care of these children. Hannah Gross is a character who, well, she's not the nanny in the show, but she is taking care of the house. She's taking care of the people. Likewise, she has been taken care of by this family, and that has kind of smothered her because now she's dead. And even like I said a minute ago, even before she died, she was kind of smothered, she was kind of in stasis because of how they had taken care of her. I've seen this dynamic play out in real life where there's, you've got a family member who has the means to take care of another family member, and it's all completely from the best place of just earnestly wanting to take care of someone. And then you watch over the years and it becomes a dependency. It becomes something that neither of them really signed up for. Neither the person who wanted to who wanted to just generously take care of someone, nor the person receiving the help. It actually becomes a fly trap, a glue trap, because like, how does either party escape from that relationship, right?
Yeah.
It's a very, like, it's funny because it's, on the one hand, it's talking about this very specific, English gentry countryside manor scenario, but also I think there's something very general about our caring relationships. And maybe, I know I'm kind of going scattershot here, but like the fact that the whole show is orbiting around this idea that the kid's parents died, like the sort of typical manifestation of a caring relationship is like the parent-child relationship,
Sure.
which has a structure where the child is meant to grow up and the parent is meant to kind of let them go. And because the parents have died, it's almost like that relationship has been broken.
Mm-hmm.
And now this glue trap has also kind of trapped the kids too, because it's like there's not that normal progression isn't there for them. I don't know how much of this is in the show versus me just doing yarn on corkboard, but I really like these ideas that it's probing, and you kind of never see these ideas elsewhere. So I'm really enjoying that.
I think it's there. I mean, I think Owen and his relationship with his mother also represents a form of this. Like, that's a caretaker relationship, right? Owen came back from Paris to take care of this woman, and that was a caretakey relationship. And we see how difficult that was. Like, Owen is still suffering from the loss of his mother in this episode, but also he admits to himself and to Hannah in this episode that it's a bit of a relief that having to put that responsibility aside, that being able to take that thing, that responsibility of being a caretaker and just putting it down is an incredible relief on him. And of course it feels bad to feel that way. Like, I think this is all in here and part of this. And it's the same with Rebecca Jessel and her responsibilities to the family, and Dani and her responsibilities. I think, to maybe stretch this metaphor a little thin, her feelings of her responsibilities to both the children, but her feelings as the caretaker of the memories of her ex-fiance is also something that she feels a great burden of, right? Like, she feels like she has a responsibility to remember him. And that this, by the way, ties into the altar of the dead as this whole thing, that like we have this responsibility to the people that have died to remember them and to mourn them and to grieve them, and how this feels like another great weight that is put on us, that we have to carry this thing through life as well. And that in and of itself can also be a glue trap. It can get you stuck in your life, in place, physically and mentally, right? Like, I think that's why I just agree with what you're saying, because I think this is all there hovering around all of our characters.
Yeah, right. I mean, I almost, this would take forever, but like there are so many relationships in this story, but all the ones I can think of are really asymmetrical. Yeah. And I think that part of that is a consequence of the fact that there are like adults and children, but also there's this class stuff. I mean, like, even Peter is kind of the caretaker of Wingrave in a sense. I mean, he's not literally a caretaker, but he's like his valet, right? He's looking after him, but then he resents that. There's a resentment that comes along with that caretaker role once again.
Yeah.
So I think it's all throughout the story. It's very interesting because once again we're both referencing the actual turn of the screw story, but also just feels like a very Jamesian thing to talk about class and the relationship between the genders being unequal and unfair. Like, basically just everything being unfair for women is a despite the fact that he doesn't exactly have 21st century gender politics in his books, he does often depict women getting sort of shafted by just the way society is set up in his stories, and we see that a lot here. I feel like the only exception I can really think of is the budding relationship between Jamie and Dani, where this is a thing that is trying to happen, is a a relationship between equals, two people of the same kind of class. I mean, one's American, one's British, but that's not exactly unequal. That's just different. And
I on her behalf, I don't think she would appreciate being called British.
Sorry, I'm not good at this. What is she?
She's Irish, right?
I don't know.
Her accent is Irish.
It's I guess it's slightly Irish. Yeah. I can't really. We're Americans, Scott. It's all kind of the same. But they're not that different from each other, and they're also, they kind of see eye to eye, like philosophically. And I'm like, so what are we doing with that? I mean, interrupt me if you see any other, symmetric relationships. I would have said Owen and Mrs. Gross, except she's dead, which makes it hard. or maybe that's the thing is it was doomed. It was doomed because it was it was too good to be true. I don't know. It depends on how depressing the show is going to be.
No, I think that is one of the things that I think you're right makes the relationship special and different, is that it feels like in a story that is clearly about relationships and love and these complicated things. This is an example of like, here's the one example of doing it right. So I mean, so far they're very early in their whole thing, so we can't say that definitively yet. But I think from a power balance and from a respect and just like, I think our discussion question at the end of this episode is the examples of the wrong kind of love, right? And I think the thing about putting a couple into the show that is the wrong kind of love, that is so clearly in Rebecca and Peter Quint, like, you need to have the kind of mirror of that, and it seems like so far the right kind of love is Jamie and Danny. So yeah, I think you're right there.
Yeah, the show certainly seems to be positioning it that way, especially after they had an actual conversation about, possessiveness being the opposite of love, right?
Yeah. Speaking of Hannah and Owen, though, I do want to go back to this scene that you called the spine of our episode, because I think you're right. I love this whole sequence so much, and let's just say here, Tania Miller and Raul Coley, like, they're both doing awesome in this episode. Tania Miller, like, holy shit, man. Like, she's this episode asks so much of her. I think, like, one of the things you joked to me about after you finished watching this episode is like, all right, I finished the latest episode of the Bly Manor called The Queen, which was a reference to the Castle Rock episode, in which a character is unmoored by time and is flashing through different sequences of her life. The Constant, which is an episode of Lost in which a character is unmoored by time and flashing through their life, which is a funny joke. But I think that one like central truism of these three episodes of television to compare to is like the character at the center of it, if it's going to be good, has to be having like one of their performances of their lives.
Yeah.
And I think Tania Miller in this episode is just like, this was a weird thing that I struggled with, Matt, because like I kept wanting to be like, man, isn't she like so good in this role? And it's not that she hasn't been up until this point. I think she has been, but she just like was a backgrounded character for a lot of it. And I knew that she was going to about to step into the sun and take her moment in the spotlight, being the central focus of this very challenging, structurally challenging, emotionally challenging, just like storytelling, like acting challenging episode. And I like, dude, she's so good in this. Like every bit of it, like what she has to be doing, acting as her memory said she was supposed to act in the scene, while at the same time feeling discomfort says she feels something's wrong there. Like, it's just fucking great work.
Right.
Man.
It's starting to sort of crack over the course of the episode.
Yeah.
And it's not that I've ever thought that she wasn't good in the rest of the show, but there is a sense in every episode until this one that she is sort of a background character in capital letters. And it's, and her reactions to things, it's not like they're like off, but it's just, well, she's not the central character in this scene who's critical to what's happening. She's there, but then you reflect on it and you're like, well, it's because she's like dead and she can't actually be like the world is a sort of unchanging thing for her.
Yeah.
And she's a kind of unchangeable creature. So when things are happening around her, the most you're really going to get out of her is a moment of like, oh, that was slightly surprising. And then she's kind of going to just go back to baseline because because she's stuck. She's in the glue trap.
Yep.
And again, it's not something that rose to conscious attention as like a thing she was doing, but that is maybe why she's never kind of like jumped out and taken over the scene. It's because like, no, she's incapable of doing that. She's not a proactive creature. She's not a proactive character. She's a ghost. She's just repeating the same things and then reacting to what's happening. And then this is the big exception to that, obviously.
And I think the moments that we did call out her as her biggest, strongest moments in the episodes have been like in the flashback where she confronts Peter in the West Wing when he's taken Rebecca there and given her a fur coat. But and of course that is a flashback that is pre-death, so that makes sense. No, I think you're right, and I think also like doylistically, the show is like on a very fine line of like wanting to gesture that there's something going on with her, but wanting to save it for the reveal. That I think it's just the show is just very conscious about spending too much time with her, because like, I mean, there's so many moments throughout this that on retrospect like look obvious, but didn't look obvious in the beginning. Like the one thing we kind of pointed out that she didn't touch any of her dinner the first night, and then also the next day when Owen makes bangers and mash once again. Hannah Gross has not touched any of the food. And then I think the show like smartly like doesn't call your attention to that, but it also continues to still happen, that Hannah never eats anything, never drinks anything. Even like one of the things I was paying a lot of attention to in last week's episode was the bottle of wine that she's drinking, because it's like the first time. Like every other time she's been offered a drink or food, she's declined and said no, or just sat down. And like, there's a moment where she's sitting down to eat and like you see her reach her fork and knife out to like cut the food up, but then you like never see her like actually like pick up a bite and take it to her mouth. Like the show just never shows that to you. And I do think after like really studying her drinking from the bottle of wine, I think she's putting the bottle to her lips, and I don't think she's tilting it back enough to actually get anything out of the bottle. I don't think she's actually drinking through any of that sequence at all. I think she's going through the motions.
I think you're right, because I think toward the end of the episode, I might be sort of hallucinating this a bit, but I feel like there's a moment when she's like staring at the bottle almost, and like the implication is realizing like this is empty.
Yeah.
You know, like this is like realizing the artifice of what's going on in this scene.
So I think one of the consequences of like doing this thing with her that is being backgrounded, but also it's like drawing your attention to it in just a few ways, but not in all the ways, is the fact that like that is from sequence to sequence, from scene to scene, she can't be like the driving force of the scene, because maybe then we start asking too much questions. Maybe then we start wondering and thinking like I think there were multiple times throughout the last few episodes where I've like posed the question to you of like, what's going on with Hannah? And your responses were like, man, I don't know, but I haven't really given it much thought either. And like, I'm not saying like that's your fault. It's just like, it's not the driving force of the narrative at this point. Like she is not what is driving our characters, what is driving the central narrative of the show at that point. And then up and now is the point that it begins, right?
Yeah. Right. And you know, the thing, I think there's a kind of interesting meta level red herring with her, where what I thought was the mystery of Hannah was like what happened to Mr. Gross, you know, what happened, like what happened to her in her past that led her to have these regrets, and who was it that died, or not regrets, but like, you know, why is she here? I think I may have even said at some point, like why is she here? Why is she stuck here or something? I can't claim credit because I don't know that I said that, but I remember feeling something very much like why is she here in this place? And that was actually the mystery. I just didn't understand what I meant by that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the crack is such a weird thing too, where it's just like, there's no way you could find any meaning from that whatsoever. Like, I mean, you like obviously the perfect meaning once you understand it is like the crack in her facade is like like as her walls that have protected her from the truth are slowly starting to come down. This crack is showing more and more, and eventually we stop seeing the crack in the wall and just actually see the crack as it exists in the well. Like she actually just sees that. And so it's a perfect metaphor, but like, until you understand it, it's just like, huh, that's weird. I guess I'll just file that away of another weird Hannah Gross thing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, what's great is that I think I remember interpreting it as a metaphor of like, yeah, it's the crack that undermines her reality or something like that. but it is also a literal crack in a literal wall, just not one that we've seen before.
Yep. I do want to talk about one of my favorite like recurring motifs of the episode though, and that is the phrase "honestly, Hannah," which is like my favorite thing in this episode, practically.
Go on.
So basically, this is a thing I noticed on rewatch. Peter Quint especially, but also at some point Rebecca Jessel, although Jessel technically says Hannah, honestly. This is a thing that he says to her multiple times. Like whenever she's being, in his mind, silly or ridiculous, Peter Quint will go, "Honestly, Hannah." And that is, of course, the last thing Miles says to her, Peter Quint as Miles says to her before he pushes her down the well. And so it's this very charged statement for her, right? Because she, in some level of her subconscious, that is the last thing she hears before she dies, is Miles saying, "Honestly, Hannah," and then pushing her. But it's also, it's like a perfect construction of a sentence, because what is Hannah doing but not being honest, right? Like honestly, Hannah, look at what's going on. Honestly, Hannah, like notice. And it is moments of, a lot of the moments are moments of where she's just not paying attention. And like one of them is, I think one of the times Miles says it is when she catches Miles smoking. And I think what she says to him is something like, "If you don't stop it with those, they'll choke you to death." And he smirks because he's Peter Quint, who got choked to death by a ghost, and says, "Honestly, Hannah," and then runs off.
Honestly,
It's such a fun thing that like it doesn't necessarily call its attention to itself, but it is there throughout the episode, and I really, really liked it. And then of course, like it's one of those things I picked up on it, and then like the second I realized that that's the last thing that Miles says to her as he pushes her down the well, I was like, I got so excited because I was like, oh my god, this is the thing. I wasn't just imagining this. This is the thing. The show was consciously doing this, and I just think it's a very clever kind of vocal motif that goes through our episode.
Yeah, no, that's great, and it's kind of like the crack, right? Where it's a thing that keeps popping up in her mind that bugs her, that she can't put her finger on why.
Mm-hmm.
So, just do you feel? So I know that you know what happens next. So
sure,
I guess I'll just express my feeling in this moment is like, was the purpose of this episode that we're watching Hannah Gross ghost Hannah come to accept
Hannah
Gross come to realize and accept that she's dead, or when we come to the next episode, is she just going to be sweeping the foyer again? And I'm not really sure, because the way we leave in this episode, I feel she could go either way. She could sort of crack all the way. That crack could complete its fissure, and she could realize her own nature, and we could kind of start, I don't know, accelerating things in some regard narratively, or it's just this was the audience becoming aware that she's a ghost, and she's not quite there yet, or maybe this is the beginning of a process that culminates in that. I find myself at this point not entirely sure.
I think that is a very fair and correct question to be asking yourself at this point, for sure. Because what do we leave the episode with? What is the final moments of the episode? It is Hannah having chased after Owen, saying to him, "Yes, I want to go with you to Paris. Yes." And of course, he doesn't hear that. He's going through his motions, which, by the way, very clever of Mike Flanagan to find a way to work his terrible alcohol you later pun into the episode, not one time, but like 4 times.
Uh-huh.
Just very well done to everyone involved in that writer's room.
Yeah.
Just so you know, like, one of the things in the director's commentary for the first episode is that Flanagan is like, I love making terrible puns, and I used Owen as my method of sneaking terrible puns into the show. And so not only did he do that, but then he constructed a way to make him give the terrible pun multiple times. Very clever, Mike.
Love it.
But so we end the episode with her chanting to herself, "My name is Hannah Gross. It's 1987. Miles is 10. Flora is 8. and over and over and over and over again, right? And that could be an attempt to not lose herself completely and anchor herself into the truth of her reality. Could just as equally be an attempt of tossing that anchor back towards her coping mechanism and just being like, what is happening right now? Well, I'm Hannah Gross. I'm alive. It's 1987. The kids are this age, and I'm a housekeeper. And you're absolutely right. We in the next episode could open up again, and Hannah is scrubbing the floors, and Danny walks in, and she goes, "Oh, good morning," and she's acting like the exact same, and that would be a horrible, terrible tragedy. But I think one that I could absolutely see.
Yeah.
And we could also see it the other way, right? That maybe part of the catalyst of, this is episode 5. We've got 4 episodes to go after this. Part of the catalyst that becomes like what the climactic plot of this story ultimately is, partially involves Hannah Gross and her understanding of who and what she is.
Yeah. I feel so correct me if I'm wrong. The line, "There's something wrong with Miles," doesn't that happen at least a couple times, or is it just the one time when Owen says it?
The time that happens the most dramatic and effectively is when Owen says it, and the way Raul Coley delivers that line, by the way, holy shit! I don't like. Yeah. There's something wrong with. I'm not an actor. I can't do it. But like,
yeah.
It like I got goosebumps.
Yeah, me too.
And it's just like so powerful. So I think that line like that only appears in the episode once, but part of the returning to the interview scene is every time she brings up Miles, like Owen pushes her on that a little bit. It's like is like the idea of, is he dangerous? Like you said sometimes boys will be like that, but he's not really dangerous. Like, has he ever cruel? And every time she pushes back against that. And I think part of this is like part of her subconscious, like admitting that not only am I dead, but he quote unquote, he did it to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that's I see where you're going. You can finish your thought, but I see where you're going with this.
Yeah. Well, so there's there's layers that are tangled up here, because in her full cognizant form, if she were coherent and sort of awake to herself as a ghost, then she would be able to tell extremely important information to our characters, like, hey, there's a deadly ghost who wanders through the house at night. I watched it kill Peter Quint. Peter Quint is dead. His body is in the lake.
Yeah.
Peter Quint is possessing Miles. I saw it. All of this information would be very useful for Danny to know.
Yeah.
But Mrs. Gross doesn't really know it because she just keeps kind of getting reset.
Yeah.
And kind of, maybe in her more lucid moments, like when she's in that interview with Owen, which is kind of an anchor for her, because I think because she's meeting this guy who she thinks is really cute, and
yes,
like this is a very important moment for her. For her, Owen is a very important person. So in her mind, he's kind of the part of her that's trying to shake her out of this.
Yes.
And she needs to communicate all the stuff that she knows and she has witnessed to our characters. I don't think she's going to just like snap out of it next episode. I think her starting to like recite this mantra to herself, like you pointed out, is basically part of her realizing, like, I need to get out of this glue trap. And the first step is realizing I'm in a glue trap.
Yeah.
And also, I think I need to protect these kids is a big part of her motivation.
Sure.
But she's not going to be able to do that until she can kind of wake up, like I said.
Yeah, I mean, I think just like looking at the story structurally, it would solve every single line of conflict if Hannah was just able to pull Danny aside and be like, oh, by the way, ghosts are real, that Peter, like all the things you said, like would just solve, not completely, but would largely solve a lot of the tension and conflict of the show. So the idea that, that we're going to open episode 6 with Danny being caught up on every single bit of piece of information that's going on here, and them like deriving a plan to solve it seems a little too pat. That doesn't mean like we won't get partial stuff of that happening, and it doesn't mean that Hannah is doomed to just go back to being the same Hannah Gross we've seen in the previous 4 episodes. But yeah, I mean, I agree with kind of what you're saying there for sure.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, we will see. I mean, these are great questions to ask, because again, this show, like, maybe stepping back and speaking broadly, like, this is episode 5. We are over halfway through the show now. We've got 4 episodes left. There is still, like, beyond like the character stuff, like what is the like, can you see what the finish line of the show looks like? Not really, right? Because there's not like a plot in a traditional way. There's this escalation of tension amongst characters. So there's definitely like a narrative. There's definitely like a story. I'm not trying to say the show doesn't have a story, but it's just not very plot driven. And we talked about this last week a little bit, but I think we can see this even more now. That's like, obviously, like, our antagonist is Peter Quint, right? Like, he is the one that is now. We also have a woman that chokeslams people and drags them into the lake. Like, I'm not saying she's not an antagonist, but you just stay out of her way and it seems fine. Peter Quint is like actively like assuming the body of a child, and we need to stop that. Like, so we could say, like, that's plot wise, our goal is now to defeat the ghost of Peter Quint, right? But still, that's like it's very loose plot wise. This is a character driven show. This is a character conflict driven show. And so I think asking all these questions of like, hey, what happens now, I think are valid.
Yeah. Well, we've got a lot of different characters who are, trapped or haunted by something. Danny is our protagonist. We haven't talked about her much in this today, really, because she
doesn't appear. I mean, she's in one scene, but it's just a replay of a scene from yesterday, from last week's episode.
And that's fine, because it's not the focus. But just whenever you ask, like, what is the plot of the show, you have to say, well, what is the arc of the main character? These are not identical questions, but they're very tightly coupled.
Sure.
And her arc has also been somewhat obscure to us, because it wasn't until the previous episode rather, that we understood what her deal was. And yeah, that was only episode 4. It's kind of, I keep laughing because I'm realizing, like, this is only episode 5. That was only episode 4. It's not like it just feels like this is a show with such like depth and density. It's so meaty that it just feels like so much show has happened, but it's actually only been 5 episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, she needs to, conquer this thing that is haunting her, which is partly a sense of guilt, right? I think we talked earlier in this conversation about Miles's guilt, guilt and survivor's guilt, various kinds of guilt being an important thread in this story,
for sure. Yeah.
And then there's also just the fact that this is all being told by this character in the future at this wedding reception, and it's like, well, we're heading there somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a valid question. Like, is the bookend like the structural bookend of the show is your prediction that is going to ultimately come back to relevance in some way, or is it going to be more like the Henry James novel, that it was really just an establishing beat and then we're done with it?
Well, I think it will come back to relevance some way. I think it will. And I mean, one thing I can just say is, like, there's kind of only one character who it makes sense for the narrator to be.
Okay.
Like, just based on her physical appearance. Like, I think it has to be Jamie.
Okay.
And if true, then she's wistfully telling the story about how her lover died. Like, and I'm basing that entirely on her, like, sad demeanor.
Sure.
So I know you can't say anything, but I'm just.
Well, I mean, why does it have to be someone from the story telling the story?
Because it wouldn't make. She wouldn't be this emotional about it if it was just a story that she heard.
Okay.
I like it was just like here's like it doesn't. I mean, I'm remembering the first episode and how she was extremely bothered, like emotionally bothered by all this talk about death and lovers being parted, and it's just like, yeah, that makes the most sense to me.
Sure.
Yes, I'm predicting that Danny's going to die. By the way, that was buried in there. But
Okay.
yeah,
That's fun.
So that's because I was earlier I was convinced that Miles is going to die because it has to line up with the book.
Sure.
And Miles might still die, but I'm while I'm pouncing on you with predictions, I think I might change it to be Miles doesn't die, but Danny does.
Okay.
Because that would be a fun like inverse of what happens in the book.
I'm going to write this down just so we have it officially written down.
Lock it in.
Lock it in. It's locked in. Okay, cool. Yeah, obviously I can't participate in this part of the conversation at all. But I like that you're thinking about these things. I like that you're feeling the show out at this point. I do want to talk a little bit about abusive relationships a bit, because I do think that's like a big part of this episode as well. Like like one thing is we pick up with Rebecca and Peter essentially where we left them at the end of the Two Faces Part 1, right? Like the end of that relationship was Peter being a total jackass to Rebecca and being a jealous fuck up because of the whole batter incident. And then it is rather clever structurally that through Hannah Gross's flashbacks and trips through memory, we basically pick that story up and we get to follow that story through to basically its conclusion. I mean, we know Rebecca Jessel dies. We have not seen that yet, but we've seen the end of their tryst because Peter's dead. I don't even know who that was. So we see him kind of come in and then do the thing that abusers do, which is like, what are you mad about? I don't even remember doing that. That wasn't even me. And he kind of just talks her down from her anger and shit. Like, it's so heartbreaking because she starts the whole thing of like you don't get to treat me like that. And then by the end of it, she's just like totally back, and you're just like, fuck.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, and then we talked about the first half of the church relationship, or the church conversation, where Hannah is having a conversation with Charlotte Wingrave about her husband who has left her for another woman, and how she is like working overtime to justify it and is like, I still love him. He made a mistake. He's going to come back. And Charlotte is trying to be like, maybe you just let that go. And then we, in the middle, I love the way that scene transitions. It's not like anyone walks out of a room or comes into a room. It's just suddenly Charlotte's gone. Hannah's wearing different clothing and Becca's there. And then we quickly catch up that she's sat Becca down to have a conversation about her relationship. And a lot of the things that Hannah is saying to Rebecca in this moment are things that the earlier version of her was arguing for. And like, I think this does one thing we maybe didn't quite fully understand at the beginning was, not only does everyone kind of dislikes Peter Quint, but Hannah Gross like hated Peter Quint. Like she hated him. And it's like, now we kind of know the reason is she saw her husband in him. Like she knows these kind of men and she knows what they can do. And so she's kind of sniffed this out right away. But I just want to I just really want to talk through their conversation here, because I think it's really, really interesting. And it's saying a lot of what the movie is saying about, or the television show is saying about love and good parts of love and bad parts of love. That she's this girl who, Rebecca, that is, has a lot of self-doubt. She's a lot of uncertainty. She says she has a voice in the back of her head constantly telling her, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. You don't belong here. You're not going to get what you want. And then this guy, Peter, comes along and he is a guy who knows keys. That is the one thing Peter Quint knows very well, is keys. And he knows the key to Rebecca's heart, the key to get what he wants from Rebecca, is to butter her up, to give her confidence, to make her feel like she's special and important, and this voice in the back of her head is wrong. And so that's what he does. And so she's responding to that. And it's just like, and part of this is very relatable, right? Like, I think in a good relationship, in a healthy relationship, you do kind of want that other person to maybe see a part of you that you can't see. And like in a good relationship, two people come together and they make each other better. They allow each other to see the things in themselves, and or maybe sometimes even the things that they're lacking in themselves that they can improve upon to become a better, well-rounded person, right? That's what you want in a relationship, right? And so the idea that, you know, she says you don't have to change yourself, you don't have to lose yourself to find happiness. You don't have to become lose yourself in your relationship to find happiness. And Rebecca is kind of like, well, don't you kind of a little bit? And I feel like everyone does a little bit, right? Everyone changes from relationships. Everyone loses a bit of themselves in a relationship, but it's like she's taken these, I think, good things and just in her desperate attempt to rationalize feeling afraid of the person she's dating, which she just says outright. He scares me too. She's rationalizing this to like, oh, this is what relationships do, right? And it's just like, it's very heartbreaking. It really is. Yeah,
right. Not to be a broken record, but it reminds me of the glue trap stuff we just talked about, where you can even say contrastively, like a good relationship is one that is not a glue trap. It's one where both people are there because it's something beautiful that improves their lives. And if it wasn't, then they could just walk away and the other person would be very sad to see them go, but would let them go, which is kind of the vibe of the Jamie Danny relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, in this one, it's cloying and sticky, and it won't let her go. I like the idea of losing yourself in the relationship paralleled to the idea of losing herself in the role of the job. Just your identity being erased and overwritten essentially by this asymmetrical situation, relationship, whatever it is that you've gotten yourself in. Now, Hannah Gross is the woman who takes care of the house. She has sort of lost her identity, except for that part of herself, right? And this multidimensional woman that was Rebecca Jessel is kind of gradually flattening into the woman who loves Peter Quint. And maybe in a sense, that's the ghost of Rebecca Jessel. The ghost of Rebecca Jessel might actually be nothing more than that. Because
that's interesting.
I mean, we haven't seen much of her. I'm being a little premature there, but she does seem to be lingering around the house, and then also the places we've seen her in the memories have been memories of Peter Quint, basically exclusively. Yeah. So
no, I like this a lot, and I think this circles around to a point I definitely wanted to hit about Hannah, which. Okay, so like I first of all, it's like being a housekeeper or whatever you want to call it. Like that's a perfectly serviceable, fine profession. I don't want to say anything bad about that. But let me ask you a question. What is Hannah Gross like? Like, what does she enjoy?
She's stoic. No,
no, but I mean, like, what are her hobbies?
Yeah,
what does she like to do? What's her favorite book? What's her favorite food?
Yeah. She likes to be fully dressed at all hours.
I mean, she I love her style, by the way. Like like that is one cool thing we get to see in this episode is that because we're shifting so suddenly, like we get to see like 50 different Hannah Gross wardrobes, which I appreciate all of them. She looks good. She looks very good.
Yeah.
But like, I think it is intentional that we are so lost, and Hannah is so lost in Hannah Gross caretaker, maid, housekeeper, that like, who is Hannah Gross human? Like, who are you? Like, what did you want out of your life? Like, what did you want? And it's like, it doesn't, like, I'm not saying that, like, again, being a house, there's nothing wrong with that, but like, we just, like, as part of learning about her in this show, there's so much of her we don't know, and it's because all these pieces of her have been like filed away into just Hannah Gross, housekeeper.
Yeah.
And like, like it's not, that's not to say she doesn't have virtues and she doesn't have like traits as a character. Obviously she has all these things, but like she has no background. Her background is this guy named Ben. Where did they meet? In town, I guess, in Bly. Like we don't even know what he looks like. Like what was it about? What was it about him that she fell in love with? Like all this stuff is superfluous to Hannah Gross, housekeeper, and so we don't get any of it.
I think there is something very cool about the fact that there is no scene where we see her and her husband have a fight.
Yeah.
Or even talk on the phone. It's all off screen because, like, as far as this being that now lives at Bly Manor and is stuck at Bly Manor, he doesn't exist really. Mm-hmm. He's theoretical. Yeah. There was a theoretical husband in the past who is kind of the reason why she's here, but he doesn't really matter. He's not really real. I think that's really cool.
Which, by the way, that wail that she gives when she walks out into the night, that we don't even know the context of it when she starts doing it. Holy shit, man. Like, I don't know what kind of direction you have to give to a person to be like, here's how I want you to wail, but that was incredible. Incredible.
Yeah. I mean, it did seem like that was kind of her whole identity was like, I am. We've addressed before the fact that she's called Mrs. Gross. It's like her identity is Mrs. Gross. Mm-hmm. The name of the man who has betrayed her, right? But that's still how she labels herself and how other people label her, and she never objects to it. I don't think. I don't remember her ever correcting anyone and saying just call me Hannah or deciding to go by her maiden name or anything. It's denial. To quote
to quote herself.
to quote herself, she's just in denial about everything. She's just kind of stuck in denial about her own stuckness.
Yeah.
And just trying not to think about it.
I love that part so much where she's talking to Owen about that girl. She's in a glue trap and she doesn't even know. And she tells this wonderful story about the mouse that that rips its own leg off. Uh-huh. And it's like, Hannah, you're talking about yourself.
Yeah.
She even says denial. I loved when Dream Owen, like, not only does he turn the word denial back on her, but again, Raul Coley, great shit. He screams it at her. Denial! Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Just my God.
Oh my God. Yeah. So good.
I have a stupid question. What accent does Rahul Kohli actually have in real life?
He's British.
Okay.
I think he's from London.
Because the first thing I saw him in was Midnight Mass, where I just thought he was an American actor, and now he's doing a British accent. But no, he has a British accent. But anyway.
Yeah, I think every character in this is doing their own accent, except for Henry Thomas. I think Peter Quint.
Yeah, right.
Oliver Jackson Cohen is British. He's doing the Scottish accent, but he's a British man. He was born in London.
You're killing me, man. I would have sworn, like I never would have guessed that he was British from the. We might have talked about this before, but just Dude, these
Brits do American accents really good. Like they make it like no British person can do an American, no American person can do a British accent as well as a British actor can do an American accent. It's freaking uncanny.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although me and my kids have all started saying no in the Australian way whenever we say no to each other.
You want to do it?
No. Or
I mean, I feel like you got to play it up a little bit more, but that's fair.
No. Or I'm sure it's terrible. We have fun.
It's great.
With it.
It's great.
Yeah.
We're American. We get to embarrass ourselves. That's
we do.
Part of our privilege as Americans. Speaking of like the kind of abusive relationship stuff that we see, I think we have this conversation where Hannah is really pushing Rebecca on like, you're not being truthful to yourself. Like, I love the moment where she's like, it's okay, I've dated guys like him before. And Hannah's like, no, you haven't. You just told me you've never met anyone like this before. So which is it? You can't have it both ways. And Becca's response is to say, honestly, Hannah, and then she runs off. But we cut from that scene. And I think this is really, really, I love the structure of this episode is so good, where they decided to cut and which, like, basically they're building sequences together that don't necessarily flow in time, but flow in story and plot. It's just very well done. But we go from that scene to we're back in the kitchen with Owen and Rebecca and Hannah. And this is the scene where they talk about the glue trap. But what was happening in the scene is Owen is asking Rebecca if she'll try his stew, right? And so we're connecting back to the batter sequence. Only this time we see Rebecca is like horribly made uncomfortable by this whole thing. Like she is like, what? No, I'm not hungry. Which is like, what does that have to do with trying to see if there's enough salt? And like, she like this idea of the strong woman who's not going to let a man treat her like that. We're seeing how that experience has changed her, and she's not going to let that happen again. Because God forbid he walks in again and I'm trying more of Owen's food. How dare I? And so what she said, she just like, she's very uncomfortable. She's like very like, just all her confidence is gone. And she just, what? No, I'm not hungry. And what Owen says as he gets like, he's okay. And he walks away. He starts quoting Shakespeare. He quotes fucking Romeo and Juliet, of all things. And he's quoting the friar from Romeo and Juliet saying, the sweetest honey is loathsome in his own deliciousness, and in the taste confounds the appetite. Which basically is just like,
sweetest honey is loathsome in his own
you
deliciousness,
eat too much sweet stuff and it's bad for you. And this is in a thing where he's basically saying, hey, kids, you all need to calm the fuck down with this love. He's like this. What the whole quote is: these violent delights have violent ends, and in their triumph die like fire and powder, which as they kiss consume. The sweetest honey is loathsome in his own deliciousness, and the taste confounds the appetite. Therefore, love moderately. Long love doth so. Too swift arrives as tardy as too slow. So chill out, kids. And that is, I mean, like, I think Romeo and Juliet is the perfect comparison to this young love between these two characters, because like I think it is really interesting that culturally we hold Romeo and Juliet up as this great love story when the point of the play is actually like these fucking idiots.
Yeah. Well, we love watching idiots in love though. It's we do I mean, I guess it is our culture, but it's a very old idea that the passion of young love is fun to watch, even though it's usually literally like fire catching gunpowder on fire, right? Like the friar says. And
but the whole point of the play is like, this is bad.
Yeah.
The whole point of the play is like, I mean, the play opens with Romeo like, y'all, I lost Rosaline and I will never be happy again for the rest of my life. I'm so miserable. This is my one great love and it's over. And then like 30 seconds later, he's like, fuck that. I got Juliet. Like even to the point where Mercutio is like, dude, what?
Yeah.
You just said, what do you, and like, that's the whole play. That's the, and it's just so funny to me. I think it's a perfect, like we see Owen speak Shakespeare multiple times throughout this episode. He gives the Hamlet soliloquy, the What Dreams May Come soliloquy at the end, where he's really pushing Hannah, like when she's talking about her dreams, for in the sleep of death, what dreams may come. This is the soliloquy when Hamlet is considering killing himself, but he's like, oh, I'll be free from all the terrible stuff of life. But what happens when I die and I don't know? What dreams may come when I have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause. It's perfect stuff. I love it. I'm a Shakespeare nerd, so I'm into it all.
Yeah.
And apparently so is Owen.
Yeah. So is Owen. I want nothing but the best for Owen. I want Owen to go to Paris. Owen's going to be the only person who gets out of this mess alive.
He is no longer glue trapped, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Unless you want to count Hannah, his attachment to Hannah, maybe.
I mean, his attachment to Hannah, it is going to be hard for him to walk away from that, but I feel like it's going to be possible for him to walk away from that. You could argue like you want a character like this to show at least one character getting out of it and saying, you know, I know this is going to hurt. I like I was thinking about ripping off the leg, the mouse ripping off the leg, a very, you know, gruesome, horrifying image. And I was like, I was basically thinking like, what does that equate to? That's a very evocative detail. I wonder if that is meant to connect to something specific, like you can escape the glue trap, but you got to be willing to rip off a leg to do it. And maybe something like him leaving behind this woman he loves is him willingly ripping off his leg to escape. Which you die when you rip off your leg, so it's not great, but
your metaphorical leg. Yeah, I mean, also, like, he obviously really cares for the children, right? Like we've talked throughout many episodes about his, like, him and Flora are just absolutely adorable. Like, he cares about these children, and on some level, leaving would be like leaving them. But that's I mean, that's the caretaker relationship. You talk about how easy it is to feel trapped when trapped on both sides of it. When you are helping someone that has no one else to help them, you feel trapped in that. There's a lot of pressure there. And then on the other, like, I think that's going back to Becca and Peter again, when you are getting your only idea of self-worth from someone else. And it's not like it's not what I talked about where like he is making you see things in yourself that you didn't believe before. No, he is just defining your self-worth. Then you are completely dependent on him for your self-worth. That this idea of feeling like I can never leave him. And she even makes that argument to Rebecca. It's not as if I love him and he's such a good person and he's so great. It's he makes me feel good. He makes me, I think what she says is he makes me feel alive, actually. And Gross's response to that, I think, is a really interesting thing that, not to go on a tangent, but she says, you must understand there's a difference between feeling good and feeling alive. The two aren't always the same. I'm not even sure I know how to parse that.
The two aren't always the same.
Because, I mean, obviously it's a charged thing. The word alive is a very charged thing when you put it in the mouth of or around Hannah Gross, right? She's not dead in that scene yet, but like there's a charge meeting for a character who is dead,
right? Yeah, I think feeling good you can feel good from routine is the thing to just like her character specifically. The reason why she is stuck the way she's stuck is because her routine brings her comfort. It makes her feel good, but it's a comfort of a lack of any kind of disruption. I mean, feeling alive, I very often feel the most alive when I am like traveling internationally, which is extremely uncomfortable always, right? Like you're all, the funny thing about travel is that you're always actually miserable when you're doing it. That's not true. I'm exaggerating. You're very often miserable, like, because you're sleeping in weird places, or you're not sleeping enough, or you're jet lagged. I'm really fixated on sleep here for some reason, but very often you're physically uncomfortable, but you remember those times as being so amazing, right? Because you were alive, you're experiencing new things, which is what life is. And death and stasis and stagnation, these are comfortable. I think that's maybe what we're talking about there.
Yeah. No, I like that idea. Because part of Hannah's counter to her is, look at you. You look like you haven't slept in a month. And so like she's saying like, I feel alive. And no, what you do is you feel good. And you know what, like drugs make you feel good.
Right.
Like, but they also kill you. And so, this confusion of like what it means to be alive and what it means to actually live and what it means to feel good. I think you're right. Like, it feels good sometimes to be safe. It feels good to be in routine. It feels good to not have any stressors and not have things that feels good. But is that ultimately living? Are you shutting yourself off from, because you're so afraid of bad experience, because you're so afraid of self-doubt, because you're so afraid of what might happen? are you closing yourself off to life?
Yeah.
I think you're just right. I understand it now. I parse it now, and I think you're right. So I love that idea. I love that idea of you're going to you willingly stick yourself in a glue trap because you're so afraid to venture out of the proverbial Bly Manor that you stick yourself there intentionally, and you don't even realize how stuck you are until it's too late.
I love that. This also reminds me of a conversation we had. I forget which episode we were talking about. It was what felt like an epiphany to me, where we both kind of realized, or I realized at least, that like the feeling of loving someone is better and bigger and more powerful than the feeling of being loved. And I was I was like ruminating on this again. Tell me if you remember like why or when we were talking about this.
I remember this conversation very distinctly. I could not tell you when it was, if it was even this show. I don't know. We do so many things that I forget.
It might not have been this show, but anyway, that kind of this reminds me of that because also because it reminds me of young love. It reminds me of Romeo and Juliet, where when you're young and you've got all the hormones and everything, like the feeling of someone being interested in you and being loved is very seductive. It feels really good. But that's a totally distinct thing from the feeling of actually loving someone, which is like a almost infinitely more powerful and kind of wholesome thing. I think, in my opinion. And it's like Rebecca is talking about what she's kind of addicted to here is the feeling of Quint idolizing her and putting her on this pedestal and making her feel special, but she doesn't love him, right? She doesn't. Yeah. She likes the way he makes her feel.
Yeah.
She doesn't love him.
Yeah.
That to me is the dark kind of wrong kind of love, right?
And I think we talked about her a lot. I think the same is true on the other side, is that what Peter Quint wants is respect and power, and like he is obsessed. He is the person who talks most about class and the divide between class in this show is not anyone in that upper class. They don't ever talk about it. It is him. He's obsessed with it. He's obsessed with power and this idea and this uncrossable barrier of class that he just can't get around. And the irony of idolizing America as a place where anyone can do anything. You just have to have money. And it's like, yeah, well, I mean, that's not like, it's definitely more true than I think high society London, but like, it's not like super true in America either. Like you're going to bring this black woman and tell her, you can do anything in this country. It's like, well,
yeah, we got $200,000.
Yeah. Yeah. He's idolized this idea because he wants to be free. What he wants power. He wants power. And he has power over her and he likes that. And does he love Rebecca Jessel, or does he love the idea of someone being so like locked and it's just someone being glued to him? Right. Like what does he like more? And I think that's very clear.
Yeah.
I will say, and I don't want to turn this into like sympathy for Peter Quint hour, because fuck that guy. I mean, not only was he an asshole in life, but he's also possessing children and making them murder people. So like, that's not going to win you any awards.
No.
I still think, and I think the show does a really great job of this. That dream that Hannah witnesses between him and Rebecca, the last moment they see each other. I think the show does such a good job of building the tragedy around that idea, right? That like we see these two characters, and this is, and even Rebecca herself says this is him at his best. This is where he's the most Peter. He's at his best because he's so hopeful. He's so much himself because he's so hopeful and optimistic. And like, this is a guy, like he's talking poetically about like the things we're going to be in America. And it's just like, you know where this goes, knowing where it goes, you can't help but see the tragedy of it. And it's like, this is a guy who, for all his faults and foibles, of which there are many, he was a person that had these grand ideas and really wanted his version of what living would have been. And it's just in an instant, that's all gone. And you can see like, and I don't think you have to love the character and like agree with the character to see the tragedy in that.
Right.
I don't think.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think he's like a unpleasant rogue, but not like a monster, right? I also, I mean,
well, at least in life, I think in death he basically becomes a monster.
In death, I think he becomes a monster. I was actually going to ask you if you thought that he like intentionally, knowingly pushed her into a well, or if it was really just him being angry and shoving her. And because the moment after he pushes her and she falls, you see the shock reaction on Miles's face. And the question to me is just, is that Peter Quint experiencing shock, or is that Miles experiencing shock? And I'm not entirely clear.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how premeditated it was. What I will say is like the way the scene is shot and they maneuver around each other. It's like Miles kind of, or Peter at least, kind of slowly positions things to where the well, like he moves around in the scene in a way that puts Hannah between the well and Miles. Now, whether like he was doing that consciously with the idea of like, I'm about to kill her, I don't know. Like, it is really interesting because the argument that he makes as he pushes her, it's like, it's such a shame you had to see us because this was going so well. We don't know what this was. What is Peter's end game with possessing Miles in the first place? Is he just fucking around because he doesn't get to experience things in life anymore and he wants to smoke still and whatever? But or does he have some ulterior motive? We don't know the answer to that yet. But his argument is like, you saw us now, and now I have to push you and kill you because you've seen this.
Yeah.
But I kind of poke holes in that because like Hannah sees Peter possessed Miles like sitting somewhere smoking, and then he runs off and she shouts his name and runs after him. So like, if you're Peter Quint really like trying to avoid killing Hannah, you would just not like unpossess Miles and make yourself visible in that moment, right? Like, you would just not do that. But like, she's chasing after you, so it feels on some level like it's premeditated. But
yeah, right. I mean, it's interesting. She probably did. He's aware that she's aware of something that he wants. I mean, I think the obvious answer to my mind is like, he wants to complete the reanimation technique and live his life in this kid's body somehow. Like, maybe for some reason he thinks he can do that. That is an idea from the book, by the way. I'm not just getting this from anime.
What have we said about this, Matt?
I'm sorry.
This podcast has rules.
Yeah, I know. But look, it's from the book too. The idea in the book was like that the idea that the governess gets in her mind for some reason is that these two people who died, who were probably just poor, innocent, random people who died for random reasons, were actually Satanists who were trying to corrupt and subsequently possess the bodies of these children. So that's actually in the book, is that like, yeah, these horrible demonic people are trying to possess the children and live their lives through these children. Anyway, like that might be what he's planning, is my point.
Sure. But I think we got distracted. We were talking about the tragedy of the death of Peter Quint.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think I said what I was saying is like, he's just kind of a rogue, right? He's not a nice guy, but he's got his charm. He's got his he's he's a thief with the heart of gold without the heart of gold.
So I believe that's called a thief.
Right. No, but like he's got the charm of, I mean, okay, so the reason I said that is I was kind of thinking about like the original portrayal of Han Solo, where he's sort of the archetype of like, he's kind of an asshole, he's sarcastic, he's selfish, clearly out for number one.
Mhm.
But there's a charm and charisma to it because it's Harrison Ford.
Sure.
And that's kind of how he's playing him. He's playing with this maybe it's a darker charisma than Han Solo has.
Yeah.
And then Han Solo becomes a totally different character by the end of that movie. But the point is, like, it's you get why he's charismatic. It's hard not to kind of be drawn in by a character like that, I think.
Well, and I think like as much as he is manipulating Rebecca and trapping Rebecca in his special glue trap, I do think parts of what we see of him are honest, right? Like, I think he did have a rough childhood. Like, I think he did have a not great family situation. Like, the questions we ask ourselves is like, what turned him into this person who believes that everything in his life is so transactional, that believes that even relationships is possession, is ownership, is transactions. What turned him into this? And the answer is he had a rough life. He like, we know his relationship with his dad wasn't good. I think we kind of learn that it doesn't say it specifically, but obviously it didn't seem like he had a great relationship with his mom either, or any family or anything like that. And he's kind of always been on his own. And so like, this is a guy who thinks in this moment, I finally done it. I finally overcome my limitations. I finally found someone who loves me. I think he's wrong in his understanding of what that love is and how real or not real it is. But he thinks it, like, I think he thinks that he loves Rebecca, and I think he thinks Rebecca loves him. I think this is true. And so, yeah, it is a bit sad to see this guy so excited about their future together, so excited about his future, so excited about all of it. And he's walking out the door, and he's going to go to the bank tomorrow and steal all the money. Or I guess he's technically already stolen the money, because if not, like, no one would say he stole $200,000 from £200,000 rather from Henry Thomas's character. But what does he do, Matt? What does he do before he goes? What does he do before he just walks down the stairs and out the door?
Gotta get that necklace.
Gotta get that necklace. Why? Is it? I mean, it's valuable. It's an expensive necklace. It'll fetch him a few more thousands of dollars, maybe. But he's already got like $200,000 waiting for him in the bank.
Yeah,
So
just
he goes,
it's ego.
Yeah, because Hannah told him he couldn't have it, and he wants it. And by going and get the necklace, he takes just long enough that our lady in the lake has walked up the stairs, and he is right there in her path when she walks by. If he hadn't taken the necklace, we don't know for sure. Maybe he would have gone down the stairs and out the front door, and she would have been right there waiting for him, and the things would have happened exactly the same way. But I do think it is an intentional point that he grabs the necklace.
Yeah.
And that is his fatal flaw in the end, is that he can't. Like, it is not it's greed, it's power. It's, he's very American of him.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's petty and egotistical too, because it's not about the money. It's about, I won't let you tell me what to do, and being easily wounded. I mean, we saw him he's easily wounded. That's just like one of his core traits. Is the thing with the batter fundamentally is him being so thin-skinned that he has a galaxy-brained idea that this is shameful to him, that she is doing like this very harmless thing with this because there's another man involved. And he's just enraged by it, right? He's driven to rage very easily, and this is he's doomed by his own ego and his character flaws, and we can kind of slightly feel bad for him as just like a human, because nobody deserves to get choke slammed by a faceless
lake ghost.
Yeah. What a terrifying moment. I know we said this already, but like, I was not expecting anything like that to happen. It wasn't a jump scare. It was just horrifying.
Yeah. So I watched this episode Friday. So we had our book club on Friday night, And I finished the book club. I went to bed, and I honestly, with the expectation of I'm gonna lay in bed, I can't quite go to sleep yet. I just pulled up this episode on my TV with the expectation of I'm gonna watch like 10, 15 minutes, and I'm gonna get tired, turn it off, go to sleep. I'm gonna watch. I'll finish it later. I watched the whole damn thing that night. So I was alone in my bed, like on the cusp of sleep, and got to this moment, and it scared the shit out of me despite the fact that I knew it was coming. And then I had literally like a recurring dream that night, just over and over again. I'm just either walking around my house, like just sitting here at my computer, just like out of the darkness materializes Lake Lady and just grabs me by the neck and throws me into the like 6 times that night. And I just like, I'm not the type of person that remembers their dreams very often. I usually don't, actually. For whatever reason, last Friday, over and over and over again.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
It was horrifying.
And you couldn't even tell me about this because I hadn't watched the episode yet.
Exactly. That's why I messaged you and said, "Have you watched Bly yet?"
That's that's horrifying, and I'm sorry that happened, but also like, what a story.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I mean, it's like how this is effective, because do I have like nightmares about jump scares in all the horror movies I watch? No, I don't.
Yeah.
Like you said, this isn't a jump scare. I mean, I guess it kind of is, but she just materializes out of like, it's not like Sting and Loud. It's like she doesn't like just pop into frame. It's like she materializes out of the blackness, like, and she's just walking out of the darkness. But the way it's filmed and the way it's done, it feels unique and different in a way I can't even really put my finger on.
Well, it's floaty and it's almost like casual, because it's not like there's a like, for those on video, you'll appreciate my acting here, but it's not like she's like, viciously grabs. It's almost just like a casual, like, just you're in the way, and just takes him by the throat, and then because of the horrible sounds he's making, it's and the fact that he hasn't fallen, it's like, well, she's just like crushing his trachea.
Yeah.
Like, how else would she be holding him up like that? And just dragging him, and not even like slowing down in her trudge. It just gives this sense of like inexorable power coupled with floaty, ethereal weightlessness, which is just a very creepy juxtaposition.
No, you're right. It's fantastic. It's almost scarier than anything in Hill House, which we talked at the very beginning, like which is the spookier show. I think this is scarier than just about anything in Hill House. Like, oh, I love it. Hopefully now, after reliving this, I will not have the same dreams again and again and again tonight.
I hope so too.
But I guess the thing we can maybe finish on is like the kids witnessed this, though, right? Like the kids saw this ghost grab and kill Peter Quint. So like, possession aside, these kids have gone through some shit. Their parents have died. They've witnessed the death of Peter Quint by a ghost. They're talking to all these ghosts in the house. That's how they know the lady in the lake is dangerous, because the others tell them that she's dangerous. They've seen Rebecca Jessel's death as well, or at least Flora has. We don't, by the way, know how Rebecca died yet. We find her in the lake, right? And so the assumption is that the assumption that everyone has is that she committed suicide by drowning herself in the lake. The assumption that we can perhaps have now is that she got Lady in the Lake. But they didn't find Peter Quint's body, and he got dragged into the lake. So it feels like it's going to be different in some way.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that she got Lady in the Lake, although I think that was my earlier theory. I think I might have at an earlier point said that she was like possessed and then drowned by a ghost. But I think maybe she just, I don't know. I still, like, it does seem somewhat out of character given the character we've been shown, that she would just decide to commit suicide. So I still expect some degree of supernatural influence.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know. Doesn't seem quite right.
The one thing we know is that Peter tells her, pack your bags, be ready to go tomorrow night. I'll be back for you. And then dies. And so never returns. Right? And so she will assume this man ditched me. And we've already established in this episode that she is putting every bit of her own self-worth in him and the way he makes her feel. So I don't think it's beyond the pale to say that she would make a horrible choice to hurt herself. That doesn't necessarily mean that like that's what happened, right?
Yeah, right. It's plausible.
Yeah,
it would be plausible to the other characters, right? That's
sure.
I think that's the way I was interpreting it is like there's a consistent story that makes sense to the other characters that she was grief stricken by being abandoned by this man and then committed suicide, and that's so tragic. Isn't that so tragic? There's no mystery here, right? But the actual mystery is where did he actually go, and then why did she actually kill herself?
Yeah,
or appear to.
Yeah. The one thing we don't know is if the children know that Hannah Gross is dead, right?
Yeah, I would suspect that they don't, because if they, well, I mean, my interpretation of Flora is that Flora is perpetually unsure if anyone is alive or dead.
Okay.
Because
Go on.
Well, just like she's always talking to these ghosts that Danny can't see, and she seems to. She knows that Danny can't see them, and that she's not supposed to let on that she sees them, but she's not even trying very hard to hide the fact that she's interacting with them. And it's almost like this is just so normal to her that it barely even matters to her that Mrs. Gross is dead, assuming she knows. I don't know. I've actually, I could go 50-50 on whether she knows that Hannah is dead.
I mean, it doesn't seem like the ghosts, like, it's not like once you know that there are ghosts, you can see the telltale signs of all ghosts, like have an ectoplasmic signature or something,
right.
or something. So like, it is perfectly reasonable that they have no idea. I mean, we know Miles like does not remember doing it, right? So unless Peter like pulls Miles aside and be like, hey, by the way, while I was in your brain, I killed your housekeeper. Just FYI, I just wanted you to know that.
Yeah. Right.
The only evidence I think towards it is in last week's episode when Flora is at the kitchen table talking to Owen about his mother's death, and she says like talking about people. I think she says something about like that there are people around that maybe don't know they're dead. Like that she's. I think what she's saying is her biggest fear was that after her parents died, that she was going to die. And that I like maybe she had already died and just didn't know she was dead. And she's like, the camera does like pointedly cut to Hannah and like in a fun way where the read in the scene is actually she's just concerned about the things that Flora is saying, but in retrospect, it's like, I see what you did there, show.
Mm-hmm.
And a read of that is perhaps maybe this is one very intelligent little girl's way at gesturing towards her housekeeper that, hey, this is what's happening to you. I don't know if there anything actually supports that or not, but just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, that's a cool thought. I don't know. I mean, it's possible that Flora does and Miles doesn't.
Yeah,
like,
no, that you're right. Yeah,
because one thing that has occurred to me a few times is like we see Flora has the dollhouse in her room.
Mm-hmm.
Flora seems to have a personal relationship with at least one of these ghosts, possibly more than one.
Yeah.
Never seen any indication that Miles is friends with any of these ghosts. He has this antagonistic relationship with Quint. That's it. So Flora, and Flora is probably, she's younger. She's been in the house more than he has because he went to boarding school. I think she may just have knowledge that he doesn't have, that she doesn't necessarily share with him, for whatever reason. That's my that's my thought at this point.
I like it. Maybe we'll find out next week.
There's one thread that just goes back to something we were talking about like 45 minutes ago. So it's not going to be
talk about it.
Super linear, but like just the fact that there's the scene when Danny is tucking him into bed and saying, I know it's obviously awful that you don't have your parents, but you have this group of adults here who really care about you. This is a really, she says something like, you've got a really great group of chosen family, found family, whatever she says.
Mhm.
And that's like pretty heartbreaking to now realize that likely Owen is going to leave and Hannah is
Hannah's
dead. And that's half of them right there.
Yeah.
So it's not not good. Not going in a good direction. That just makes it very sad in retrospect.
It does, especially given that in context, Miles has no idea what she's fucking talking about in that scene because he wasn't the one that did the wine outbreak.
Yeah.
Which again, if you go back and watch that scene, she walks into the room and says, "Well, that was quite a show you put on." And Miles goes, "It was?" And like in the moment, it's one of those, kids sometimes do bad things. And then when you call them on it, they're like, "I did what? Huh?" But of course, the literal reason is that was Peter. This is not Peter.
I might have even just like read that as him going like, "It was," like shamefully, but it's like, no, he's just like confused.
Yeah.
But like the funny thing in that scene is he's kind of just like politely like, yes. Thank you for the nice speech. Like,
well, and I mean, this is like something we talked about before in the pupil episode that I was intentionally bringing this up because so much of this show is people trying to help each other for problems that they think they have, but they're not the problems that they actually have. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, so, and this is like across the board with Miles is everyone is looking at his weird behavior at Bly as a confused, angry, hurting little kid who has lost his parents. Mm. And like all of that's true. That like all of it is true, but he's also possessed by an angry Scottish man. And so like I find that really interesting because like a lot of what Danny is saying to Miles in that scene, whether he knows the context of it or not, because he wasn't there when he did his bad behavior outbreak, like all of what she's saying to him still remains true for him, right? Like he's a kid who's lost his parents and he like is suffering from that and confused from that. And also is now has this man, Peter Quint, this ghost man, like taking him over, but also probably like talking to him. And like he is his parental figure, right? And he didn't go away. He's back and he's not a good influence on Miles, both physically, literally when he possesses him, and also just being influential to this kid. Not good. I wonder if there's like a misinterpretation of what Danny said is like, oh, wow, you got a lot of adults around you. And he sees Peter Quint as one of those people, right? Mm-hmm. He's not, because he doesn't know what Peter is doing in his body, he's not fully conscious of the danger that Peter poses to him.
Yeah. Right, because he did sort of see Peter as this big brother, possibly father figure who was cool, Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's possible. I like that.
Yeah. All right, Matt. We've been going for
a long
forever.
Time. Yeah.
How did we do? I mean, this is a big episode, so it makes sense to us. But maybe we should wrap it up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
All right. Anything else you wanted to just quickly mention before we move on?
I think we hit all the main stuff.
All right, that's great. Let's move on then to the end of our episode. So we will pick up again with Bly Manor for episode 6 next week, called The Jolly Corner. Any predictions on what we're going to be doing? What is going to happen in an episode titled The Jolly Corner? You know the short story that it's based off of?
I hope somebody wanders around in the house and something is stalking them.
Okay.
Which is a very practical, plausible thing that could happen in this show.
Sure. Yeah. I'm into it.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Cool. All right. Jolly Corner. Before we go, let's quickly go back to talking about abusive relationships because that was our discussion question from a couple weeks ago when we first met our good couple, Rebecca Jessel and Peter Quint. So that was our question. I forget exactly how we worded it. Was it just like favorite example of the wrong kind of love?
Yeah.
Which is the way Jamie in the show worded it.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, great.
So from Baby Can You Dig Your Sam, Well, there's no dearth of wrong kind of love stories, both in real life and in fiction. Abusive relationships abound in stories like The Shining, The Color Purple, and the campy Sleeping with the Enemy. Then you get the relationship between two clearly self-destructive people that bring out the worst in each other. Often alcohol or other drugs is involved in these. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Leaving Las Vegas, and Sid and Nancy are examples of this. Then you've got relationships where two psychopaths manage to find each other, like in Natural Born Killers. There are plenty of real serial killing couples out there, which is crazy disturbing. Now that I've gotten that out, I'm going to pinpoint Mike Nichols' The Graduate as the wrong kind of love. The genius of that movie is perfectly captured in the last 20 seconds. They impulsively abandon Elaine's wedding and run off with each other, escaping on public transportation. Then as reality sinks in, you see the WTF comes next expression on their faces. There's no reality for me in which these kids make it. You just hope their actions allow them to fully separate from the expectations of their parents and forge ahead into adulthood. I wouldn't be surprised if these two remain friends, but that really depends on how quickly they realize that they both have an enormous amount of maturing they need to do and break up. The longer they stay in that relationship, the more likely they are to hate each other in the end, i.e., Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf?
One of the greatest endings in the history of cinema.
Yeah.
Just flawless. No notes.
What a
Good
strange
answer.
movie, right?
Yeah. I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, it's great.
70s, man.
It's a good answer.
Great film time for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Pear Jane says, I first listened to Phantom of the Opera when I was 16 and became instantly obsessed with this tragic tale of the poor Phantom's obsessive love for the beautiful Christine. He was so terribly romantic, driven underground, unloved by his mother, but so talented, so devoted to her, so tragic. I went to Toronto to see it with Colm Wilkinson and was deliciously scandalized to see how sexy Point of No Return was. They were so into each other. 20-ish years later, when I was 36, Phantom of the Opera live at Albert Hall was released, and I rewatched it. And man, the Phantom turned out to be so toxic. He was abusive and controlling and creepy, and Raoul clearly loved her for real and wanted what was best for her. 10 years later, I watched the same live performance again. Turns out Raoul was also a dick. He was also controlling, and despite Christine begging him to walk away so they could be together in peace, he insisted on taking revenge on the Phantom. Christine, girl, you and Meg, the chorus girl, need to find yourselves a nice flat in London and get the fuck out from all the terrible men in Paris. Find yourself first. Thus is the inevitable trajectory of a teenage Phantom fan.
It doesn't it strike you as unfortunate that a person has to be at least like 36 before they are emotionally mature enough to love or be loved?
I don't know if that's true.
I think
maybe emotionally mature enough to see toxic relationships, perhaps.
No, I'm right.
Hey,
it's
I got
tragic.
married. I got married when I was 33. Wait, no, 31.
You were almost a grown up.
I was almost there. Shucks.
Yep. All right. Busy Dad 82 says, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the kids are actually possessed. Okay, sorry, that's a okay, discussion question. Sorry.
But we wanted to leave that in there because they guessed it. He technically guessed it before you did because this is a first time watcher. So yeah.
Well, good job, Busy Dad 82. All right, discussion question. In keeping with my admiration of Ari Aster films, Midsommar is a great example of the idea of the wrong kind of love. After Dani loses her entire family to tragedy, her boyfriend Christian is torn about dumping her, only staying with her out of a sense of obligation and guilt. He plans a trip to a Scandinavian festival with all his friends without telling her. He forgets her birthday, then cheats on her at the festival. Despite his misplaced sense of duty, just to be physically around her, he is emotionally unavailable and unable to console her in the way she needs. Ultimately, no spoilers, it turns out she doesn't need him. She is able to start healing in other ways, surrounded by people who are emotionally supportive. You know, I haven't watched that movie, but I think I know what actually happens, and I think you're being tongue-in-cheek there, Busy Dad, but anyway.
Well, we're going to find out because it is on our list of the 25 best movies of the 21st century. So we're going to be watching it eventually.
We're going to be covering on the Doofcast in a few weeks.
Yes, sir. All right, the sloth detective says, "How about the classic toxic love that is part of familia, that is part familial, part romantic, perhaps? Norman Bates and his mother from Psycho are the absolute classic example of a toxic relationship. The two live alone for years and are very close. Mom finds herself a partner. Son feels like he's being replaced, so he kills his mother and her lover out of jealousy. Not only that, later he digs out her body, takes her home, preserves it, and talks to it as if she was still alive. Then he sort of slowly becomes her in his own mind. We never learn any details about the Norman-mother relationship, but one can safely assume she was very controlling, possessive, and manipulative, so much so that her son didn't even manage to form an identity that wasn't tied to her. Codependency is a powerful, terrible thing." I like that.
Yep. I should actually watch that movie.
Spoiled the entirety of Psycho for people, I guess. That's fine. It's only 5 years old, but whatever.
Yeah. Or, maybe more. I don't know. When was Psycho?
You've not seen Psycho?
I've seen a lot of it. I think maybe I have, actually. I did go on a kick of watching all the Hitchcock movies at one point, so maybe I have seen Psycho.
I feel like you have.
I feel like I have too. Never mind. I have. Durin Longbeard says, "My favorite wrong kind of love story is The Notebook." In short, the story begins with a young man, Noah, literally threatening to kill himself if a girl, Allie, won't go out with him. She relents and they end up in a passionate summer whirlwind romance until her parents separate them. Cut to some number of years later, Allie is in a happy, loving, supportive, and fulfilling relationship where she is very clearly happy with a man named Lon, where Noah is a cantankerous, miserable slop. She sees his picture in the paper, goes back to see Noah, calls off a new engagement to Lon, and lives happily ever after with Noah. She throws away years' worth of happiness and stability with a genuinely great guy for a guy she almost banged one time 10 years ago. It's a mixed bag because they are a romantic match, but also fairly toxic with each other. And considering Lon was objectively a better decision, Allie and Noah do live a long and happy life together. So all's well that ends well, I guess, unless you're Lon. Justice for Lon.
Justice for Lon. James Marsters, by the way, the perpetual second place choice in all romantic movies.
This one, for some reason, really reminds me of the Verbinski film, The Mexican, where we have Brad Pitt and extremely famous actress whose name I'm blanking on.
Oh my God. Is that Julia Roberts in The Mexican?
Julia Roberts, yeah. Roberts.
Yeah.
Where they're sort of awful for each other, but also madly in love, but definitely really awful for each other. But they're so madly in love that you just feel conflicted about whether you want to see them end up together or not, actually.
Yeah, that's good.
All right,
also, before you go on, I want to say I said James Marsters, who is Spike from Buffy. I meant James Marsden, who is Cyclops. That's the person I meant.
Gotcha.
So before anyone calls me out on that, I'm correcting myself.
Good. All right, just the rest of the answers real quick. Thanks to everybody for contributing. Got Stendals picks Get Out as a cautionary tale about falling in love with manipulative racists who will serve you to their parents on a silver platter.
That's definitely wrong.
Yep. Scarlet Claret chooses The Devil of Nanking, where Jason reveals he was only attracted to Grey because she was a freak, fitting his kink for physical abnormalities, not caring about her as a person. I don't know what that is, but that sounds upsetting.
That sounds terrible.
And Bent Westward selects Gone Girl, where Amy and Nick's relationship is a masterclass in manipulation, deceit, and psychological warfare, with Amy being better at it.
Yeah, but don't those two fucks just deserve each other?
They do. I think that's an ambiguous case, No, that's
I aspire to the kind of love seen in the pages of Gone Girl.
Yeah, it's interesting because some of these examples were the wrong kind of love because one of the people was really awful, and then some of these were the wrong kind of love because both of the people were really awful. Yep. And those are two different types of stories, I think.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thanks everyone for that. That was fun. Despite these relationships being terrible and awful and abusive and the worst, but they're stories, so we don't have to feel bad about it. Right?
Yep. Right. Exactly.
Matt, what is our question for next episode?
What's your favorite secret ghost?
Yeah, we went the Hannah Gross route. I was gonna say, what's your favorite? She was a ghost the whole time moment, but then everyone would just say, spoilers for The Sixth Sense. The Sixth Sense. So I didn't want that to happen.
Yeah, so I think this one might be more fun if people construed it in a broad way,
Yeah, definitely.
Something supernatural being secret, maybe not just necessarily being a ghost. That
You can also just pick The Sixth Sense. Like, nothing's stopping you.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, especially if you want to tell us like why, right? Like,
because it's one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah.
And M. Night Shyamalan is a genius.
And he's never made a bad movie.
That's true.
Yep. Cool. Can't wait to see everybody's answers.
Yeah. All right, folks. As we said, next week's episode is episode 6, The Jolly Corner. Oh, Matt. I just like, the remarkable thing that's happening to me is the show is really starting to come back to me now, as we are 4 episodes from the end. And I remember this episode now, and I'm just pretty excited about it. I think it's a fun one. It's not quite as, oh my God, as The Altar of the Dead was, but I think you're going to enjoy it. I'm excited to talk about it.
Awesome. Remember, you can reach us via email at flanaganswakepod@gmail.com, over on X at flanagan'swake, and the subreddit at reddit.com/r/doofmedia is the best place to answer those discussion questions. Also, don't forget, every episode can be found on video on our Spotify and YouTube channels. So if you're watching there, leave us a comment and let us know what you think.
Yeah, I think we have officially found a way of not having YouTube go crazy every time we show a clip of something. We found a way. I don't want to say we found a way around the copyright, because I continue to say we're protected by fair use. This is an educational podcast, and we use those videos to enhance our discussion. But we found a way to display them in a way that doesn't drive the YouTube crazy, which is good news for us. So yeah, please check that out either on Spotify or YouTube.
Right.
And speaking of checking us out, everyone's going to be checking you out with your awesome hoodie, which is available at doofmedia.myshopify.com.
Hell yeah.
So go check out that. It's starting to get cold out. It's perfect time to get a Flanagan's Wake hoodie, a Doof Media hoodie, and if you podcast me, then podcast me hoodie, which remains one of my favorite things we've ever created.
It's great.
It's such a deep pull thing that nobody's going to get it, and that's why it's the best.
Yep.
Yeah, so check that out. Check all the other stuff we have over at doofmedia.myshopify.com.
And if you like our show and you want to support us, and please consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/doofmedia. We've got all kinds of cool bonus content, like bonus podcasts and voting on what we cover on the Doofcast every week. So go check it out.
Yeah. Also, please check out our Kingslingers feed. If you happen to be still subscribed to that, you should have it already. But if you're not, we are right now in the middle of discussing It, Welcome to Derry. I am joined by our great friend of the podcast, Kim C., and we are going through that show episode by episode. At the time of this recording, episode 3 was just released, and we recorded our episode about it. But by the time you're hearing this, we will be through half of the show. So check out that on the Kingslingers feed. We've been having a great time talking about the show, even though the show itself is a mixed bag.
Sounds delightful.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us this week. We'll see you back here next week for episode 6, The Jolly Corner. Until then, Mr. Flanagan, that crack in the wall means you're dead.
You can't just say it.